Hello, and welcome back to Hosted Bar. For those who may not remember, this is the episode where we talk about what we learned with our guest, our last episode. As always, I'm Erin Ogden, and with me again is Dawn Millarney. But Dawn, you are someplace exciting that actually needs the stocking cap right now.
Yeah, I was say I looked at the sign as I was walking into the building. I'm 11,000 feet in elevation right now, up in the mountains, and you probably can't exactly see because it's
Yeah, we can see. Oh, someone just went by on the snowboard.
Yep, I was like, so I've been snowboarding all day. So this is my little break from the hill right now, and enjoying the snow in Colorado.
Awesome. So what are you drinking on your snowboarding break?
Yes, I'm having a mimosa.
Ooh,
I thought that sounded kind of yummy.
it does. I would that or hot chocolate, right? Those are your kind of your options.
I say, and I'm not a chocolate lover, so
There you
got to
go.
do what you can go with. But yeah, what are you having today?
I have a little
Mm,
Chardonnay. I'm
yum.
usually not a Chardonnay person, but it was a gift, so it's the best, right?
Mm.
My husband's brother used to say, food that's brought by a friend has no calories.
Oh,
Right? And I feel like the same as wine brought by a friend is always good.
always good. And I would say I learned from going to California to Sonoma, you need to have Chardonnay at room temperature. I know it
Right?
sounds weird, but
But
it's so
otherwise
much more
it's
flavorful.
yeah. So yeah, it's
Hey,
it's good. Could be worse. I'm not going to complain because, like I said, it was a gift from a friend.
I love it.
So our guest was Amanda Strickland, and I'm really excited to hear kind of what you thought about it because and what her thoughts were, because we talked a lot about kind of upheaval and doing big changes and all of that, and you're kind of going through that right now.
Hmm.
And I saw you like having thoughts
I did.
while she was talking. So tell me, what was kind of some of your big takeaways?
Yeah. I met her at a coffee shop one day and I felt like we had this instant connection. And there was things about her that, even I think of the conversation. She's all about adventure, her family, her health, and, doing what she loves. And those are things that I keep thinking, as I'm reflecting and thinking about her conversation or even myself right now is, you know, life's too short and I need to live my best life by showing up as my best self, but also doing the things that fill my cup up.
Mhm.
And I think that's what was so interesting to meet her of like, yeah, she had a lot of changes in her life, but she was still living her life and she was focusing on herself. Because if we don't show up as our best selves, we're not going to show up best for everybody else.
Right.
So those are some of mine. But how about you?
I thought it was really interesting how she did when I first talked to her about upheaval. She's like, oh, I mean, it's upheaval, but she thought more of kind of like shifts
Yeah.
and how and she would there's a lot of people who like to do it in like small shifts,
Hmm.
but she kind of did the big one. And there's a lot of studies that show if you want to do a big change, oftentimes the big shift is the better way to do it. So like if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to exercise, a lot of people like to like tiptoe in, but so many studies have shown that yeah, you can, but it's really easy to backslide. And if you instead take a big leap instead of the tiptoes, the big leap actually gets you there faster and kind of sticks better, because even if you backslide a tiny bit, you're still so much further. And so she was definitely a big leap kind of person.
Yeah. She just took action. And
Right?
that's the main thing is you've got to take action.
And then another thing that I had just heard in a podcast kind of since her thing that again struck a bell is that there's suggestions that you should actually make a big life change about every decade. So you don't get stagnant, so you don't kind of just fall into the doldrums. And so you should have a big life change, even though it's stressful, even though it's hard, you actually tend to be happier if you do that.
Yeah. I would say one of the activities one of my coaches had me do in the past was divide my life by, I think it was by 5.
Okay.
And it would be really interesting, like even if you did it too, where you divide it by 5 and you think of that chunk of life, like what were some maybe pivotal moments in each chunk? There was major pivotal moments or changes that you just sometimes don't realize, or and then like the little things where you stress more about it, it's like, gosh, I've been through a lot before. So how does that hold me up? But it's interesting though that it's true. You don't want to get bored. You need to have those drastic changes to keep going ahead. And I think it just like, it makes you get more adrenaline almost sometimes.
Right. And it helps you focus on what's important. And that's one thing that I think she brought up again and again is like, okay, but what was the important part here? And what
Mhm.
and refocus on that. And that's what helped her kind of do those changes, because she's like, oh, that if that's what's important, then that's what I need to do. Health is important. So this is what I need to do if I'm going to say health is important.
Yeah.
And family is important. And so if that's true, this is what I need to do. And kind of having those guiding lights or touchstones or whatever euphemism you want is really helpful. And I think that's something that you've talked a lot about with what you're doing is, okay, what are my priorities here?
Yeah. And that's been a shift for me. Work was always the top priority. It was growing in my career. And, sometimes you realize that it's the little things that are more important. And,
But
like
are they
even
the little things? Right?
I know,
They're not,
right?
right? They're the big, that's
They're
the
the,
interesting is because you shift and you're like, oh, I kept calling them little things, but being able to go to, snowboarding with my family where there's major powder, it's not that you
yeah.
needed to go to, a ski resort. It's that you wanted to, that's your thing that you and your family do.
Yeah. And I think that's where even for me, it's been a shift of the mind of just like enjoy it, enjoy the
Mhm.
moments and forget about the work, or forget about the projects and the things you need to get back to. It's like live in the moment and take the action to just be present. And I giggle to myself even from this week of, one day I was a little tired and I'm like, I'm just going to go down to the bottom. It's towards the end of the day. I'll meet you guys up soon. Well, on accident, I took a wrong turn and I ended up on the other side of the mountain. And so then I had to like backtrack and get over. And I was really frustrated with myself. But then I had a moment where I was like, what was the gift out of this? I get more time by myself just to look at the scenery, take it in, ride a gondola, and ride down and take my time. And I
What a
think
great
that's
question. I love that question. What is the gift in this?
yeah, I've
Right. When
been
you,
really trying to do that lately.
right. Because like you'll catch yourself where you're like whining or complaining or whatever, or just kind of feeling down. And you're like, wait a minute. All of that is true,
Mhm.
but also true. What is the gift in this?
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you can't change it. You're not going to magically be able to go somewhere else or shift someone else's, thoughts or processes of other things that other people do. It's like you just got to be present in the moment and do what needs to be best for you, I guess, even too, of like, you can't um be in charge of everybody else too, where I was just kind of like, I just got to be in this moment of myself and not be mad at myself and enjoy the day and get to the bottom when I get to the bottom. And everybody beat me down because I took a wrong turn. But hey.
Yeah, but you were going down there, so you had some time to yourself, and you could just be at the speed you want to be, and you were able to do that anyway.
Yeah. And that's the one thing about even like coming out here. It's so beautiful and breathtaking that, it's a good way to slow down
Mm-hmm.
and realize moments that are really important or the things that sometimes annoy us. Is it worth it? Just take a breath. So
Right.
I just think of like Amanda too, moving from Alaska to Madison and,
Slightly different scenery.
yeah, slightly different scenery. Like today, it's like Madison to now Colorado. But, sometimes you need to have a different perspective, I think, on
Mhm.
life too, to open your, um, gosh, I can't think of my words today, but just open your horizons on things.
Yeah. And then one thing that we talked a bit about that I wasn't kind of part of the plan, but I thought was really interesting is her decision to not drink.
Mhm.
Right. And that's something that, again, it was a big shift. It was a big part of her, kind of her personality
Mhm.
that she had. And then, uh, it, she took a moment and said, okay, is this a priority? Right. And what is it kind of almost as shifting her sense of self? Like, is this, is this drinking what is the important part? No, it's this other thing. And this is getting in the way.
Yeah.
Right? Not necessarily to the level of alcoholism, though some people have that, but it's what is it that's getting in my way of fulfilling my priorities?
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting too, just because, how she was even saying, "I'm sleeping better, I'm more present," and I think sometimes, being a Wisconsin person, it's kind of the norm. If you don't
Yeah.
have a cocktail, it's like, "Are you pregnant?"
Right?
What's going on?
Right? And I think that there's whether it's drinking or other things, a lot of us have that thing that
Mhm.
we're kind of holding on to from our younger years.
Yeah.
And we realize it's not serving us anymore. In fact, not only is it not serving us, it's impinging, right? It's holding us back. And so I thought it was really interesting that she's kind of looking at what is it that I'm kind of holding on to out of habit
Mhm.
rather than that. And also, even though she enjoyed it, she realized, no, I enjoy the social aspect more. So I can still go to a bar and drink, 7 Up and be just as happy.
Yeah.
So being willing to investigate that and explore that is something that I think, she takes a little bit of, granted that it's easy for her to do. I think a lot of people find that much harder.
Mhm. And I kinda liked it too because it was like her own personal challenge to herself.
Yeah,
It wasn't like on someone else's timeline or 75 hard that everybody's doing a trend or something. It was like, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna see how it's gonna work for me,
I
and
actually had to Google 75 hard the other day because it was showing up in so many things, and I'm like, "Okay, what is this?"
yeah, yeah, I know. Well, it's
And
like
then
it's so popular. And that's where I think goes back to the whole other thing of the society and what the society thinks you're supposed to do or the expectations. And it's kind
right?
of a new thing too of 75 hard. If you can't handle it, well then, you're not strong enough.
Right, well, and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, no, that is hard. That
Mhm.
looks really hard," and would I? Sure, but what am I gaining out of it? I'm gaining 75 days of misery, and I had actually seen somebody post on, LinkedIn about how they had kind of failed it several times, and then they were feeling bad about feeling it, and then to kind of go with other things, she flipped how she was looking at it, and that what's the gift in this? But
Mhm.
I didn't fail it. What I learned is I can go back. I can restart. You don't have to be that. And what am I gaining out of this? And if all the thing is I'm gaining so I can put a stamp, well, then I'm not gaining what I need anyway. The whole point of 75 Hard is to learn lessons about yourself. And I have,
Yeah. Lessons about yourself right there. The key ingredient.
right? And so I thought that was interesting, kind of that part of it. And I think it goes, a good question kind of like yours. What was the gift in this? What was the gift in the feeling? Oh, I didn't fail because I actually
Yeah.
learned.
Yeah. And I think even for me too, it was, well, I figured out how to get back to where I needed to be, and so I know it's kind of an interesting thing I've been really working on is
Mhm.
so I've been taking this PQ
Okay.
class with my coach and now I'm actually going to get certified. So I started it
So
this
what's
week.
PQ?
Yeah, so it's positive intelligence and
Oh,
it's ways for you to understand more of maybe what kind of sabotages you. So
oh yeah.
but it's a way for you to then find it like what's the gift in it? How can I be more curious? How can
Mhm.
I, change the mindset around it? So, like example, I'm a people pleaser, I'm a high achiever. And so there are really amazing traits and qualities and strengths with that. But then when you go a little too far,
Right.
that's where it's like, that's where it's kind of sabotaging you, or you're not being in your sage and taking in the moment of how can I be curious and learn from this and explore and all that stuff. So, yeah, so I kind of giggled to myself. I was like, look at me. I'm already doing my PQ here in the gondola when I was, you know,
Right.
lost by myself.
But how interesting is it that even that bit of it, right? The taste of it. You say you're starting to learn more. You're starting to, but even that little taste of it helped you change perspective. It was a small shift, but it was a big shift,
Mhm.
right? It was just asking that one question to open up an entire different thing. And I bet before you asked that, you were like, and afterwards, I bet you were like, oh, right. And it made life better for that small but profound shift.
Yeah. And I think that's where even too, just like talking about Amanda, she probably had those moments of, okay, this is what happened. I got a divorce now. I have these children, you know, this is what I'm passionate about. What's the gift out of this? How can I keep moving ahead? And how can I keep pushing myself forward? And
We
I don't
don't
know,
all have
that's where
to
it's
move
inspiring.
3,000 miles to
No.
make those shifts.
Yeah. What big shifts do you feel that you even, as you're thinking about Amanda or even this right now, has there been some pivotal shifts for you?
So one of the things that like I said, the thing about shifting your life every 10 years,
Yeah.
kind of thing, it made me look back and I'm like, I've kind of done that. And because I used to be in science and working labs, and then I switched to law, and then I switched, firms, and I started the firm. And so I tend to make those big shifts. And the past year or so, I've been kind of like, chafing and be like, what's going on? And it made me realize, oh, I haven't had a big shift
Uh-huh.
lately. Right. And so I was getting that itch to like, what do I need to do? And it helped kind of put that into perspective. I'm like, oh, so that's maybe why I'm not unhappy with this. I'm not unhappy with that. It's not external. Right.
Mhm.
Because this is one thing we touched on a little bit. It's so easy to like say things are external and realize
Mhm.
when it isn't. And coming across that, okay, what is truly external? Because if it's truly external, I can't control it.
Yep, you can't control it.
Right. And so I should stop trying and stop trying to get mad about it or whatever, because there's nothing I can do. And what is internal, and what can I do to make that shift work for me? And that's something that I've been really working on, because my employees are probably sick of me saying it, but we all need to be reminded, you can't control other people's actions. You can only control your reaction.
Yes.
Right? What is external? What is internal? Where is that power? And because if you're going to give people power, then you can't get mad when they use it. And what
Mhm.
power do you have to actually control what's going on? Reaction, action, control, the correct locus of control and power.
Yeah.
And then
See,
realizing,
summed it
oh,
up
this is
so better.
internal. I can fix this. So I should stop whining and address it. Or I can't fix it. So stop whining because it won't matter.
Mhm. You summed it up so much better than me of how I was trying to say that. I was like, you can't control the people and their thoughts and their actions and the things that they do. You just got to control yourself and
Right?
live the best life. I think that's the part too. We are so concerned about what everybody else thinks or what they're all doing. And I think that too, with our phones, it makes it so easy that you feel like you're missing out, or this person's doing this thing. So now, oh, I must not be good enough, or
Right.
I'm
Everybody puts
missing out.
their best life on social media. How
Hmm.
many people put their like, well, I'm picking up dog vomit today?
Yeah.
And they don't. And nor do
No.
I want them. I don't want
Right.
to see your dog issues, right?
Hmm. I don't want to see all the low moments, but I think that's too just a reminder that we're all human.
Right.
And I think even for like Amanda, she wasn't expecting her life to shift when moving here to Madison. I
Not
think
to the
that's
level
the
that it
part.
did, I don't think, right?
Yeah. And I think that's too just another reminder is you can plan out so much, but you can't plan out everything in life.
Right.
There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be the ebbs and flows. And you got to ride the waves
Right.
and see where it goes.
And then I love that she puts her kombucha in a wine glass
Mhm.
because she's like, it tastes better. Like there are some things that you can just be like, you know what? It's better. And this is something that we used to do as little kids all the time. We would always drink our cherry 7-Up in champagne flutes. My mom had
Ooh.
like these old champagne flutes that she would let us as kids have less because she's like, if it breaks, whatever. But we felt like the fanciest kids ever eating our frozen pizza with, our cherry 7-Up in that because it just brought that fun.
Yeah.
Right. And so the kombucha, you're still having the fun because that's what was important about the drink and the emotions that it brought, not
Mm.
necessarily oh, I have to have alcohol, but I just want to feel like this is part of my thing.
Yeah. It made me just think of too, like, so while we're here,
Mhm.
my father-in-law loves to make painkillers for everybody. It's kind of like the afternoon fun cocktail, after you get done with riding all day. And my son loves it too, without rum. But it's
Right.
like for him, it's an exciting thing because everybody else is doing it. It's like a camaraderie thing. And I think that's something too about like going out for cocktails. It's like getting people together and
Right.
connecting. And that's where, it's always sometimes drinking involved, but
But that's also why I have a friend of mine who is an alcoholic and is very kind of open about it. But
okay.
so he'll say stuff every once in a while that makes me really think. I'm like, he's like, I'm okay with other people drinking. I just want to be included. Like, I don't need to be included in things, but just make
Mhm.
it easy for me to be there. Right. And so this is
Yes.
one thing that when you do a lot of your events, you always make sure there's another option.
Yes. Well,
Right.
you just even think of when I was pregnant, you don't want to be left out. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't have a drink right now, but
But that
I don't
doesn't
want to
mean
be
I
left out.
can't be fun.
Yeah, we're still
Right?
fun.
That doesn't
Doesn't
mean I
change our
can't have
personality.
kombucha in a wine glass.
Yeah. Mm,
And
I
so kind
know.
of that inclusivity thing, like she said, don't not invite me to the bars because I'm not drinking. I
Hmm.
know how to be there and not drink and still enjoy myself. So I think there's a lot of things like that where sometimes we forget to what inclusivity actually means.
Hmm. Ooh, yeah.
Right? Because it's like, oh, they just want to be part of the crowd. It doesn't mean that they have to be part of the crowd that does all the same things, but give them the other option.
Yeah. I think it's just, it makes me think of so many different things, of just even relationships or friendships and whatnot. It's
Hmm.
like, well, if I don't have children, some people think that then they can't come with because they don't have children
Right?
or like me, we bring our child with us. It's all adults and we bring our child with us because we're not going to change our lifestyle. We want him to be a part of it, and I think that's the part of, yeah, you got to include everybody and make it what you want out of it too. Have fun with it. No matter what situation you're in, it's another reminder of just, you got to enjoy the moment. Not everybody else is
Again,
going to make
what's
it
your
better for you.
priorities? My priorities is to
Mhm.
have my child be part of this and show him what it means for this, as opposed to, well, if I can't bring him, then that doesn't fit my priorities. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
your event sounds great, but it's not my thing.
Right? I
And I
know.
think some of that is important, especially with like, because there's a lot of stuff about how kids learn so much from lessons you don't even intend, right? If
Mhm.
they see you spending money wisely, they learn what that means. If they see you, I mean, I don't know if anybody balances their checkbooks anymore, but seeing you looking at those and having those discussions in front of them, and even they talk about like having fights in front of your kids or disagreements, showing them the healthy way to do it.
Yeah. I think of it even too, with me switching and doing my own thing. My son was confused by that.
Right?
Like, what do you mean, mama? You're not going to work every day.
Well,
And
you
I go,
are
well,
going to
now,
work every day.
right? I'm like, now I'm working for myself. Well, what does that mean? How are you doing that? And it's been an interesting life lesson for him, of
Yeah.
um because before work was everything and I would drop everything and go do it. And instead, now I'm trying to be more present with him, but I too remind him like I'm taking time away from work to be with you. Or even this too, like this trip, it's like we pulled him out of school because we think this is more important sometimes than going to school right now. Like you're
Right.
7. You are going to learn more from a week with us than a week,
You'll catch
yes.
up with what you learn, right? Like
Yes.
you will figure out, addition. Don't worry.
Yes. And you'll figure out the words. And, you know, I think that's the point too, is just like you got to have those life experiences.
Yeah. Just
To
think of
keep,
all of those lessons that Amanda's kids have learned through
yes.
this, right? Like, oh, it's okay to have change. They're learning resiliency. They're learning grit. They're learning that they have their own voice, that you can prioritize and make
Mhm.
things that decision based on those priorities. And so all of those lessons that she's teaching them just by doing it. And it kind of fits with the book that we just finished, The Influence is Your Superpower.
Yeah.
The discussion about she was doing the thing about negotiation and having a voice and showing it by doing certain things. It's showing her daughter that she has a voice, that she can make these things and you can have that impact. And
Mhm.
by standing up and doing things, she did talk to her daughter afterwards, but just by doing it, it's showing the daughter, oh, we can be this person, we can do this. And
Yeah.
so
We
I
can
thought,
be courageous, I think too.
right,
She's being
you can
really
be courageous.
courageous and brave.
I can move cross country, I can start my own business, I can stop drinking alcohol, and I can still be the same person.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of, there was a lot of notes that I had. It was really inspiring little things nuggets, just reminders of
Yeah.
things
So
that we all are strong.
right. So I was really glad to um have that and have all of her perspectives and all of the fun is always in the tangents, right? Where you don't expect the answer to go where you thought it was, or the discussion that didn't. Those are always the best parts.
Yeah.
And so I think next episode we have a guest
Mhm.
that you brought up. So why don't you just give a quick teaser of who's next?
Yeah. So we have Brandon coming on the show. He is really involved with the Fitchburg community, in the chamber community. He's also involved in the drag queen arena. And I'm really interested to learn more from him and to kind of ask those questions so I can show up as a better person too and have a different perspective on stuff. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us from the wonderful slopes. And we are
Ooh.
all jealous of the fun, but not really jealous of the snow, I have to admit.
Mm. I know. Whenever we do this every year about this time, it's like I'm kind of over snow, but it is dumping right now and they're going to close in the next half hour. So I'm going to make my way down the mountain and enjoy the moments with my boys. I see them outside waiting for me right now. So yeah,
Excellent. Well, have so much fun. Enjoy.
thank you. All right. Good to see you.